Good morning, and welcome to News with a View, a Fat Cat production. Today is May 19th. This is episode 67. And today's discussion, of course, will be the diagnosis that President Biden, former President Biden, has prostate cancer, which has metastasized to his bones. Lot of questions going on about when this was diagnosed and how, and the reports or whatever they're releasing, saying it's very aggressive. Well, and using a Gleason score, which I had to look up. I had no idea what a Gleason score. I knew PSA scores, and we all been going for a PSA screening since probably I've been 45. But I never heard of a Gleason test, and then you find out that that's after they have taken a biopsy. So you've had to have an elevated level for them to go in there and actually do a biopsy. And I think I remember asking my doctor, and this was on Long Island, at what point do you decide you need a biopsy on a PSA? And I remember her saying that if you start getting up into the 6 category, like point whatever to 3 would be normal. And anything from a 3, if it starts climbing up, they start looking at it. And then by 6, they're ordering a biopsy. Now, the biopsy is then categorized into the Gleason score, and they take one set of cells and another set of cells, and they add them together to get a score. Joe Biden has scored a 9, which means the only way you can get to a 9 is you had to have what was classified as a 5 score in one of the cells. And that's bad. If you have any of the 5 cells, you're going right into a much higher risk of cancer reoccurring even after the removal of the prostate. And now, obviously in this case, Joe Biden, it has metastasized to his bones, more than likely to his spine. Because those are the closest areas, the spine, the hip. They tend to be, contact points. Now, whether or not they found it in his lymph node system, if they found it in his lymph node system, then they'd be looking for was the bone cancer or prostate cancer a secondary cancer due to the spread. So not sure on that. They haven't come out and really have said what the how they got there with this. I'm going to move this because it's shadowing, and I think I'm going to bring it up here, and it should still hear me a little bit more echoey, but that's life. So what they're saying is that taking the tissue samples, comparing it for one set of cells and then another set of cells, you come up with a score. The prognosis is not good. Listening to experts, and of course, that makes us all experts. I always say that when I'm posting comments that, today I'm an expert on the economy, and tomorrow I'll be an expert on aviation safety, and then I'm an expert on, cooking. So everyone that goes online, we all become experts in everything. So I laugh because, 15 minutes of YouTubing and Google, there you go. I know it all. But in this case, it's really bad news for Biden. It does not seem like he'll get through this. Okay, he's 80-something, and I get that. But still, I don't wish it on anyone. Don't wish it. But the interesting part is, in February of 2024, Joe Biden had a full presidential physical. And it was interesting in the wording of it. And of course, no one, well, there were people that picked up on it and questioned it. And what does this mean? And they said, hey, the president's fine. Stop it. You're just, trying to pick apart the president. So, and I'm going to read this. And Joe Biden's annual physical exam revealed no signs of trouble, according to his doctor, who said that this year's checkup identified no new concerns. No new concerns. The president, 81, traveled to Walter Reed Medical Center on Wednesday morning for a routine physical with the White House, promising to release his health report soon after. He continues to be fit for duty while executes all his responsibilities without any exceptions or accommodations, Dr. Kevin O'Connor wrote in a letter on Wednesday afternoon, which was reviewed for accuracy and approved by physicians in the White House medical unit. Yeah. According to his updated health summary, Biden is currently undergoing treatment for multiple stable medical conditions that include non-valvular or atrial fibrillation, AFib, hyperlipidemia, reflux, seasonal allergies, sensory peripheral neuropathies of both feet. He has, tingling and stuff that's in his extremities. And his gait, which remains stiff, but has not worsened in recent years. A stiff gait in your walking as you get older, mostly if you have a neuropathy, which is a nerve problem, basically is pretty normal. I have noticed I have a problem walking stiffer, and I have neuropathy on my feet, and I am going for tests for that to make sure that it's nothing bad. So, but we get that as we get to be oldsters. So I don't hold that against. I never held it against the president getting age-related. You know, we called it senility. You know, you have a senior moment. Never held that against him. Guy's 80-something, been through a lot. But you have to acknowledge it. That's part of, what's going on with him. You have to acknowledge it. And if you don't acknowledge it, then I have a problem with it. So, one new condition that arose since the last exam, obstructive sleep apnea. But it remained stable and alleviated via CPAP machine, which was previously reported. So they say one new condition that arose, and which was previously reported, then it's not new. So I get a little quirky about this report. And they said he has begun using a CPAP machine. His lab work, which entailed a comprehensive metabolic panel, a complete blood count, checked levels, blah, 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 returned normal. They never said anything about a PSA exam. So one gets to start the question was, and I know it was asked. I remember the question being asked: all the tests were done. Some reporter shouted out. It was probably from Fox News. Ducey, screaming something out. What about his PSA levels? Coffee today, not tea. So there'll be a lot of people out there now, and there'll be a lot of talk about this, his mental state, and who knew and when. And listen, we've all said we've been gaslighted. The Biden administration has gaslighted the Americans at least for 2.5 years about Joe. So, would there not have been a debate? What would have happened? You had Biden out there saying he would have won. Now, he would have won knowing that he had cancer. Because every expert that has been interviewed has said this did not happen overnight. That he probably has had this cancer for years. And a simple PSA test would have shown elevated levels, enough for medical people to be concerned to say, we got to look further. And the levels would continue to go up. And I am certain from his COVID experience in the White House and being sick and everything else that they did full blood workup on everything. And they would have seen, hey, this is going up. Is it because the medication he's on? Is it because of COVID? We don't know. Let's track it. Maybe we want to start, thinking of doing a little test here, just to rule that out. Not to diagnose, but to rule things away. You can't tell me that wasn't being administered. Now, whether or not he agreed to it, maybe he goes, I'm not going for that. And, he might have said, hey, am I required to? The answer would probably would have been no. No, you are not required to. This is the test that we give, and you can decide not to go for a full medical test. So I don't know what he did. Now, MSNBC Morning Joe had a expert on the show. Morning Joe spoke with a doctor on Monday, May 19th. Shows suggested former President Joe Biden advanced prostate cancer is something he had for many years. Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel, an oncologist who served as a medical expert for Biden's COVID advisory board, asking him whether it takes time for prostate cancer to develop to the point where it spreads to the bone. Oh, he had this for many years, maybe even decades, growing there and spreading. That's right. It's a little surprising. I look back at the records and there's no evidence that he got his health status and medical records released that he had a prostate-specific antigen. So he continued. Now, it's true that a lot of people recommend not doing a prostate antigen after 70. But the president made his public life very public for a very long time. I mean, he went out there, he got the COVID shot, he got the shingles shot, he got, everything that the medical people would recommend for people. So he was an advocate for staying out in front in the medical. And again, they say it right here, and maybe the president decided he didn't want the test. Most men do decide they don't want a PSA test, but this is also would be him being aggressive with it. My doctor did the PSA test as part of the full panel test. You're going for a PSA test. That's what I do. And I've known doctors who said, if you do not go for the PSA test, I will not take you as a patient. I will relieve myself of you being my patient. I'm not treating you for anything specific. I'm just going to say that if you won't go for this test, which I'm already drawing blood out of you, I'm not going to take you as a patient. So I never refused the test. I never refused the digital test. I only requested he take his ring off or something, but that was about it. You're there. What's the difference? It's one thing that I don't have to worry about, or then have to worry about. So the doctor said they don't know exactly, obvious, how long he's had the cancer for. And he was a little surprised that he wasn't diagnosed earlier. He could have been diagnosed earlier. I go and I'm, like I said, from about 45, I've been getting this test. It's just been part of the PAP, So it's interesting, and I think more facts are going to come out on exactly what testing was done. And again, I can't believe that he forego any of these tests or he refused any of these tests. I just don't see him being that tight. That's the air conditioning coming on that you hear that. Sounds like, the wind blowing, but because I'm not using a face-on microphone. I have them. I have everything set up for it. I like the old roundy mic. It picks up everything in the room, a little bit too much, but tough, my show, my rules. In this whole mess that's going to be coming out, and it will become messier. You know that President Biden's mental state will be called into question, and has been. His auto signature machine for signing documents. Was he the one controlling it? Can he say which ones that he signed? I mean, listen, I'm sure, I'm certain that no president, maybe with the exception of Bill Clinton or Obama, those were sharp guys, would remember everything that was brought in front of him for a signature or that was auto-penned for him. Now, all auto-pen, people think this is a mechanical device that, you know, does this as you're doing it. It's not. It's a digital signature that you just push. It has to be authorized, or whoever does it. But I would think that there is some type of, here's a memo, you're going to initial it, that you're authorizing the use of the auto pen. But again, I don't know. I have not looked that up. But that question will come about. And if there is controversy about that, then there has to be controversy about the pardons. Or even his executive orders. But usually with the executive orders, the president is fanfaring that. That's, today I signed an executive order. So that I'm good with. You know, he might not, you know, they could have asked him 10 minutes later, hey, that, what you signed, and he go, what, I signed something? All right. You know, I'm not saying that couldn't happen. But that's a lot different than the pardons and everything that was being shoved out the door 15 minutes before the clock. That might have to be looked at later on by the Congress to say that, you know, any of these pardons have to be made 2 weeks before you're leaving office. Or we have to be notified in writing, you know, an hour before you leave office if you're doing this, that you just can't run in there and just start, you know, running it through a mimeograph machine and getting these out the door. So there might have to be some type of legislation. And again, it only happens because they feel that there was an abuse of the system. Now, again, and I say, with the executive branch, man, president is the guy. There is no too far. There isn't. The sky is the limit, as long as it doesn't directly conflict with the Constitution, but sky's the limit. And when it comes to pardons, or, you know, anything in the script of a pardon, a commutation, you know, whatever. You know, there's 3 levels of it. Everyone calls them pardons. Or the layman. So that's going to be called into question. And it's something that should be called into question. You just can't. Well, you say you just can't. Well, you can because you're the president. So I take that statement back. You know, did I agree with everything that Biden pardoned? No. Did I agree with everything Trump has pardoned? No. Do I agree with everyone? No. But I think in the spotlight of the presidential health, that has been called into question a number of times. We've never had presidents this old, Trump included. Just haven't had it. And we're living longer. So this is not going to be the last time. And you have an age limit on the front end of the presidency, but no age limit on the back end of the presidency. Maybe it needs to be looked at. Put it through the Congress. Yeah, that's why I love Congress. They're there for a reason. Make an amendment. We've done it. We have done it. This is nothing new. So I think it probably will have to be looked at. And both sides will get bit by it. So, and both sides will gripe about it down the road. Well, this limits the power of the president, yeah. It doesn't limit. It's just guardrails. No one is taking it away. Just setting an age. Just like they do in the beginning. You can't be, you got to be over 37, 38, whatever it is. Do it on the back end. I think after all this hoopla, people will be a little less resistant to it. If a president, you get into the trouble of, okay, let's say you say no president over 78 years old. I'm just using that as a reference. And you have a president who's running for a second term, or first term, who's 76 right now, but at the end of his term will be 80. And you're going to tell that president that you can't run for a second term. So going in, you already know he's a one-term president. So what you're really doing is saying that we're not going to put anyone for a first term in there who's older than 72 because they'll run out of speed. Or in airplane lingo, you run out of available runway. So it really has to be thought out and spelled out and looked at. And what probably will end up happening is it's more complicated than it is, and then, they say, well, we'll take a cognitive test. Yeah. Here. I'm going to put a pencil. I'm going to put a pen here. I'm going to move it over here. And in 2 minutes, I'm going to ask him, where was that pen? All right. It was over here. All right. They remembered. Draw a clock. Make the clock 11:45. I couldn't do it. I said, "Hold it. Is the big hand or the little hand?" It was the last time I used a clock that I had to draw. Maybe fourth grade. It wasn't something that hold it. The big hand is that one, and the little hand is the pointer, and it took me a couple of minutes to remember. And I'm going, holy crap. I want the time. I look at my phone. I got a digital watch. All right. But I understand. Okay. Why not, draw a house with 2 windows and a front door? Well, whatever. But I think that the presidential health is going to be a major topic. And for all President Trump's screaming about it, Sleepy Joe, asleep at the wheel, Sleepy Joe, can't put 2 words together. Sleepy Joe. Well, now he's sitting under the light. And he created the questions that need to be asked. And they're going to ask him. So sometimes you got to be careful what you ask. I think the Democrats are going to be, the Democrats' defense will be, this is not the time to discuss this. This is, he's going through a health emergency. We should all be wishing him well. Well, yeah, sure. I'm all for that. When did he know? When, or if you do feel that we should know. Do you feel that we should know? Maybe people turn around and go, well, listen, the health is a very extremely personal thing. And maybe you didn't need to know. All right. Make your point on it. Let me hear an argument on it that I might not have thought of. And when I say I might not have thought of, it's the people all around might not have thought of, or, okay, that's relevant. I get it. I can get there. But should we have a list of things? Should we have that if it could affect his ability to lead the nation? Is it something that we should know about? Is that something that we want our enemies to know? Or our foes? Or our adversaries to know that? These are all fair questions. And ones that should then be asked. If you're going to say, well, we demand to know whether the president is fit. All right. Do you want our enemies to know that he's not fit? And then what do you do? Do you say that he's not fit and exercise the 25th? You see the problem? You see what happens? You see how slippery that slope gets? Because once the bullet is outside the barrel, that's it. Still more talk about Comey. Comey's probably like, thank God this came out because this took the news away from him. But Comey should be brought in for questioning, and he was, I'm certain, by the Secret Service. And spoken to. And maybe others will take heed from that. Maybe your Colbert's and your Jimmy Kimmel's might tone it down a little bit because they don't want to visit from the Secret Service. And you know, are you putting pressure on freedom of speech? No. No. But might want to make you think before you speak. And if you tell me I don't have to think, I can just say, well, then there are consequences. Be prepared for the consequences, and you'll be fine. You know, you'll have nothing to fear. You know, the other thing that you're not seeing too many people talking about. 3 weeks ago, it was the end of the economic system as we know it in America. It's gone. Well, doing just fine. And there's now experts who go, well, you know, this wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. I'm still not a firm believer on everything that is being done. I understand why it's being done, but you know, we're not over it yet. We're not over it yet. And you have President Trump saying he made the deal with China because he didn't want China to break apart. Now, an economically destroyed China would be bad for the world because they're holding so many notes. And they borrow money just like we do. And they lend money, and they borrow money, and they need money, and they need American money, and they need petrodollars, and they need this. Very complicated. And you could see where gold prices have gone because traditionally, gold has always been the hedge against bad times. Not diamonds or rubies or precious gems. Gold. Gold. So you could look at gold as an indicator. And of course, I'm not giving any financial advice. Do not take what I'm saying here as financial advice. I am not, or I'm not a financial advisor, nor am I giving financial advice. I'm just pointing out facts that have already happened. You see gold prices that have gone up 40, 50%. In the last 2 years. And you show me anything that's gone up that fast and stayed up. So I think gold is right now like 3,100. I think it got as high as 3,500. And in November you could have bought it for 2,800. Now, you say, all right, you know, it's a lot of money to make a profit on, because even though the gold spot is at, you know, I'm going to say $3,000. If you went to buy it at like Costco, a gold bar, you'd be paying about $31.50 for that. So that's $150 going in to the commission and everything else to buy it, and there's a commission on the back end too. So if you went to sell it, you're going to be paying a commission again. Traders make money buying and selling. That's the way it is. So you have to have a big enough swing, a 10 or 15% swing, to really make buying those commodities in what the average Joe could do. If you're, a huge investor and you could buy, 10,000 ounces of gold, yeah, a $500 or $300 move, tremendous for you. And the good thing with gold is that it's never going to be worthless. Unless we do away with the whole money system and whatever, but it's never will be worthless. So, if you have the money and you're not borrowing the money to buy and hopefully pay it back, how hurt can you be? That's the whole thing with investing in precious metals and things like that, is that there is a threshold of you getting hurt. And if you wait long enough, you'll get your money back and make some. And theoretically, probably if you would have put that money in the bank and collected 5.5%, you would have done better without a risk. But all right. If you bought at $2,400 an ounce and you sold it for $3,500 an ounce, you show me where you make a 20 or 30% profit in that time. You can't. There's always a lot of trading going on with gold, and gold is a good indicator of where you think what the world is going to be looking at, and not so much for they need gold to make connectors and electronics. Yeah, they do, but not to the extent that you think that you're going to be needing all that gold for. Gold is always a hedge against uncertain economic times and inflation. But that is not what's being talked about, where they're going and saying now, no one is really saying, well, the market kind of came back and people aren't hurt, and yet we're getting trade deals. And, maybe Trump was right. Maybe we needed to do this. They're not saying it yet, but they know that that's coming, and they're going to have to answer to that. And they're going to have to answer to Trump going, see, you people don't want to listen. Some people do, because they're smart people. The other ones, they're not too smart. Don't listen to them again. And that's what ends up happening. And where some of these people were concerned, and they did have valid concerns. We've seen this happen before, and we've seen where you've had presidents that, are highly influenced and back off, and, and then it gets worse. And so when you have a president like we have right now, where it's my way, the highway, or I'll show you, they get it very aggressive. And some of you call it bullying. It's not bullying. And it's not might makes right. Right makes right. So it's the way it works. And I've said before, I am a person where if it's right, it's right. And a good idea from anyone is a good idea. Doesn't matter where it comes from. It just has to be viable. And you got people. Well, no one should go hungry. Well, of course, yeah. I get that, but we're dealing against entities that can control our food and control everything else that's happening. Now, if they got on board and said we're opening up our food and we're selling it for zero, and we're going to give it to all these people over here for zero, and then when they're fed, we're going to give it to you for zero. And no one will ever have to pay for food again, and no one will go hungry. Yeah, well. Come on, Star Trek, huh? Little replicator. Which 3D printers are the beginning of that replicating. Just to say. Other things in the news that is making, of course, the FAA, and how could this happen under Trump's watch and stuff? And it is happening under Trump's watch. But there were hundreds of incidences before this, and before Biden, and before Obama. So the government does not like to spend money on internal stuff, because when it doesn't work, it's glaring. And who was behind that? Who did that? Who okayed that? Where when this money goes overseas into some charity, no one ever sees it again. It's gone. But the FAA, you buy the wrong computer system, you go with the wrong technology, you go with whatever, and it fails. Oh yeah, that's glaring. And we'll have an investigation, and we'll find out who did that. So no one likes putting their fingerprints on some of this stuff. You got to be careful. But it needs to be addressed. Pete Buttigieg never addressed it. I'm sure the Secretary of Transportation before him never addressed it. You hear Trump, I tried, I wanted to do this, and no try, do. So you can't cry that. You can't go to that well all the time like that. And again, I say that they didn't want to do it because when it doesn't work, and it's right here in front of everyone, affecting the people that paid for it, and a lot of this technology has been out there, but it gets tested and tested and tested and tested to death. And by the time it's ready to roll out, it's obsolete. They don't make that equipment anymore. So part of the thing that we have to do is to accept new technology at its face. I mean, the space shuttle was being run by a computer that was less powerful than a Commodore 64. Because they tested it and tested it and tested it and tested it. Where a lot of now the competitions to that, they don't have to go through that rigmarole and rigorous testing. They do, but the electronics are so now safe that they can feel pretty confident on what they're doing and still have it state of the art. and not running on, DOS 3.1 or DOS 2 or Unix, so we have to get past that. And the private industry can do it. The government, no, because you just get more and more money studying it and doing it, and I need more time, and we need more resources. Where in the private industry, this is what you got. We got $1 million to do this. Show me what you can do for $1 million on paper, and then we'll do it. So, all right, that's today's show. Joe Biden, sad news. But not, are we really surprised that he has a health crisis? The timing is amazing. Timing is amazing, isn't it, folks? How this all comes out now. So, there'll be more conspirators and theories, and I will have mine, and we'll all have ours. So, all right. With that, I say good night. This will probably be up this afternoon sometime. Tonight is Monday, which is Socrates Station, South Carolina. I will be there this evening. There are some formatting changes again coming out with this show. The big push is going to start to happen now to go and get this out there and really push it. And my research being a little bit tighter, and the questions I'll be throwing out there will be a little bit more broad. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. June is going to be sketchy on my shows. I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to be doing a lot of it on the road. So I'm taking some of this equipment with me because I got so many commitments. And we'll be changing that up for a reason. But all in all, I've been happy. I have getting some subscribers and thinking a couple of ideas to throw out there to try to get more and make it more interesting. One of the things that I will be doing and working on will be if we go live. See, live is hard. But if I go live, then I can do call-in. I could put it out there. I could have people look at the website. My website is really bad right now. I probably will be redoing that and end up going... right now I'm using a site. I'm really not happy with it, and I knew it going in because they use WordPress, and I hate WordPress. And I would have liked to have gone with something that I did like, and I was used to, and that was a site through GoDaddy. But they were very expensive, and this wasn't. But if it's not working for me, what good? What good is it? So, all right. With that, I'm going to say adios. Say a prayer. Prayer does work. And if you can, give it to a charity. You go to the charity. Don't have that charity go to you because you don't know. Don't become a victim helping a victim. And if you can give it to a food bank, give it to a food bank. We're bringing a couple of cans over today. With that, I say good night. Danielle, Paul, Chris, Rowan, cannoli. I say good night, and I'll probably give you a call this week. And with that, I fade to black.